She was once the voice of the 1970s, soft, haunting, unmistakably hers. Millions knew her, sang along to her songs, wondered just who she was singing about. But fast forward to now, and the picture is very different. It's not the glitz of the music world anymore. It's quieter. Shadows linger where there was once spotlight. She's not forgotten, far from it, but the life she leads today is far from the one people remember. Something has shifted. You might think you know Carly Simon, the icon. You might even believe her story ended in triumph. But as we dig deeper, you'll see a side of her that few have ever known, marked by loss, by grief, by battles unseen. This is not a celebration of her past, it's an investigation into her present. As we unravel the story of how she lives now, what you discover might leave you heartbroken and deeply unsettled. Because there's more here than a fading star, there's a woman carrying the weight of decades, and surviving in a way that's painfully real. And so, I ask you, remember Carly Simon? You will, but what you're about to see might change how you remember her forever. Carly Simon's story does not begin on a stage, nor under bright lights, nor with a crowd chanting her name. It begins quietly, behind the heavy wooden doors of a brownstone on West 11th Street in New York City, where music floated through the halls long before she ever knew it would become her lifeline. She was born into a world of privilege and pressure, the youngest of 4 children raised by Richard L. Simon, co-founder of Simon & Schuster, and Andrea Heinemann Simon, a woman with a fierce intellect and deep passion for culture and social justice. From the outside, the home seemed idyllic. Books stacked on shelves like loyal companions, pianos in constant use, artists and thinkers drifting through dinner parties as though inspiration itself lived there. But beneath that cultural glow was a little girl fighting a battle no one could see coming. The stammer that forced a new voice to be born. At around 6 years old, Carly developed a stutter, sharp, sudden, and devastating. Words betrayed her. Thoughts piled up behind her teeth but refused to come out. What other children did with ease became, for her, a daily struggle. Teachers asked questions she knew the answers to. Yet she was trapped, silent, spotlighted, humiliated by her own body. The world saw a bright, beautiful child from a wealthy literary family. Carly felt like a prisoner within her own voice. Then something extraordinary happened. She noticed that when she sang, the stutter vanished, completely. The rhythm seemed to bypass whatever blocked her speech. Her mother noticed it too and gently encouraged her. If you can't speak it, sing it. And so, singing became more than a pastime. It became survival. It became freedom. It became the first thread in the tapestry of a destiny she didn't yet understand. Carly and her older sister Lucy were a natural pairing. Lucy with her crystalline soprano and Carly with a deeper, richer tone that felt like it carried a secret. Together they became the Simon Sisters, a folk duo that performed in intimate clubs, college circuits, and small venues that still smelled of coffee beans and cigarette smoke. Their early career wasn't glamorous. There were no limousines, no flashing bulbs, no screaming fans. Just 2 sisters hauling guitars, harmonizing under dim lights, and hoping the owner of the bar would pay them at the end of the night. Yet these beginnings mattered. In these quiet corners of American folk culture, Carly found a voice she could trust, one that didn't break, didn't stutter, didn't shame her. The stage became a sanctuary where she was finally in control. The Simon household was a complicated ecosystem. Her father was brilliant but distant. Her mother was loving but consumed by her own passions and political commitments. Her siblings were all talented, almost intimidatingly so. Joanna pursued opera, Lucy thrived in folk music, and her brother Peter built a name in photography and sculpture. Carly often felt in view, yet unseen. She lived surrounded by talent, but her own seemed fragile, unproven, and clouded by the insecurity born from her stutter. Even as she began performing, the self-doubt lingered. She could sing on stage in front of strangers, yet she struggled to speak in a small room full of people she knew. This contradiction shaped her more than any early success. During the summers, Carly and Lucy escaped to Cape Cod, where young musicians scraped together rent by performing in small clubs and coastal taverns. They hitchhiked, took chances, and walked straight into whatever opportunities the winds of the era carried. It was during one of these summers that fate intervened. A local club suddenly had an open slot when one of their performers was unexpectedly drafted into the Vietnam War. The Simon sisters stepped in, and the crowds loved them. Small victories, yes. But for Carly, each applause was another brick in the foundation of her future. Carly Simon's entrance into the music world was not merely a gentle continuation of her folk beginnings. It was a powerful declaration of independence. After years of performing with her sister Lucy, she struck out as a solo artist, and almost immediately, the world began to take notice. In 1970, Carly made a bold decision. She left behind the duo with her sister to pursue a solo career, driven by the same restless spirit that had powered her since childhood. Around this time, she signed with Elektra Records. The label believed in her potential, not just as a singer, but as a serious songwriter. Even though she battled fears, including intense stage fright, Carly moved forward. One of her early big breaks came when she opened for Cat Stevens at the Troubadour in Los Angeles. For someone grappling with public anxiety, the pressure was enormous. But the opportunity was too important to pass up, a chance not just to sing, but to be seen on her own terms. In February 1971, Carly released her self-titled debut album. The record was filled with introspective, deeply personal songs, not the flashy pop that dominated radio, but something more nuanced. It was raw, confessional, and real. The lead single, and the standout, was "That's the Way I've Always Heard It Should Be." The song is haunting. It's a meditation on relationships, marriage, and the bittersweet tension between what society expects and what the heart truly feels. With its mournful melody and emotionally honest lyrics, the song struck a chord with listeners. It climbed high on the charts, launching Carly into the national spotlight. That single earned her a Grammy nomination, and she won Best New Artist soon after. In a very short time, what had started in folk clubs and quiet rehearsals had turned into critical acclaim and widespread recognition. Later in 1971, she released her second album, Anticipation. The title track became another hit, one that seemed to reflect her own inner state, waiting, wondering, longing for something more. Carly once said she wrote Anticipation while waiting for a date, and that moment of uncertainty fueled the song's tension. The song's emotional vulnerability, the restless heart, the uncertainty of what comes next, resonated deeply. It climbed into the charts, and once again, Carly proved she was not just a voice, but a genuine songwriter with a gift for capturing the complexities of the human heart. No secrets, fame explodes with You're So Vain. If Anticipation planted the seeds, Carly's third album really made her a household name. No Secrets, released in the early 1970s, was the turning point. And at its heart was the song that would define an era, You're So Vain. This wasn't just a hit, it was a phenomenon. A mystery. Questions swirled among fans, critics, and the media. Who was she singing about? A movie star? A lover? Someone famous, or someone private? Celebrities were floated as possibilities, but Carly stayed coy, fanning the fire of speculation. The song's sass, its swagger, its unforgettable hook, You're So Vain, You Probably Think This Song Is About You, was laced with wounded pride. It wasn't a sweet love song. It was a portrait of narcissism, of heartbreak, of being both hurt and amused by someone's ego. And audiences loved it. You're So Vain raced up the charts around the world. It hit #1. Suddenly, Carly Simon was more than just a singer-songwriter. She was a star whose voice and mystery captivated millions. Even amid her skyrocketing fame, Carly continued to write songs that were deeply personal, reflective, and honest. Her early albums weren't just about hits. They were about crafting a body of work that spoke to her fears, her desires, and her inner tensions. Her songwriting partnership with Jacob Brackman, in particular, bore fruit. Their collaboration explored themes rarely addressed so candidly in pop music at the time: self-doubt, longing, social pressure, and emotional independence. While radio played her singles, album listeners discovered another side of Carly: the contemplative artist, the keen observer of life, and the woman whose voice could deliver more than just catchy melodies. As Carly's fame grew, so did the weight on her shoulders. The success was intoxicating, but also unsettling. She had achieved what many artists dream of, but she was still fighting her internal battles: the stutter she once ran from, the stage fright that sometimes froze her, and the loneliness that can come with being in the public eye. But in her songs, she seemed to transform her pain into power. She didn't just serenade listeners, she invited them into her world, with all its complications and contradictions. Carly Simon's rise to stardom in the early 1970s did more than put her music on the charts. It placed her life under an unforgiving microscope. Fame had given her a voice, but it had not erased her vulnerabilities. And soon, her personal life would be pulled into the spotlight just as fiercely as her songs. At the heart of this next chapter stood one name: James Taylor. They were two rising stars, both with complicated pasts, both gifted with unmistakable voices, and both carrying emotional wounds deeper than the public ever guessed. When Carly met James Taylor, there was an almost immediate spark, not the quiet kind, but the explosive, overwhelming kind that artists often find themselves drowning in. Their romance was intense, passionate, and public. The media adored them, two icons of the 70s folk rock era woven into a single story. But beneath the glamorous veneer was a relationship marked by turbulence. James's battles with addiction, Carly's lifelong struggles with anxiety and self-doubt, and the immense weight of two world-famous careers pulling them in different directions. They married in late 1972, and for a moment, it felt like a fairy tale. Their home soon filled with the cries of newborns and the sounds of lullabies. Their daughter Sally was born in 1974, and their son Ben followed in 1977. Both children inherited their parents' musical blood, and later, both would pursue careers in music themselves. Carly loved motherhood fiercely. It grounded her in ways fame couldn't. But it also exposed new fears. She worried about how her anxiety, her stutter, and her emotional intensity would shape her children. Still, she poured love into them, the kind she once struggled to give herself. While fans romanticized the Taylor-Simon marriage, the reality behind closed doors was far more fragile. James Taylor, battling heroin addiction, drifted in and out of emotional availability. Carly, who was often left to manage the household and her own career, felt increasingly alone. Her anxiety flared, her migraines intensified, her stutter returned during moments of fear. And then came the pressure of their fame, interviews, tours, gossip columns, and a public hungry for any details about the perfect couple. Nothing in their lives felt private anymore. They tried to save the marriage. They tried to repair the fractures. They tried to grow together. But the truth was painful, they were growing apart. By 1983, the marriage had collapsed. Carly filed for divorce after more than a decade of trying to build a stable world amid emotional chaos. The split was devastating, not just romantically, but creatively. Their partnership had inspired some of their most iconic songs. Their love had once been a safe place. Now it was a wound neither of them would fully heal from. Carly later admitted that the marriage remained a ghost in her life, a memory both luminous and painful. But even amid heartbreak, she moved forward. She had to. Her children needed her. Her music needed her. And life was about to enter a new and transformative phase. The dissolution of her marriage forced Carly into a new kind of strength. She was no longer one half of America's favorite musical couple. She was a single mother, a solo artist, and a woman rediscovering who she was outside the shadow of love and loss. Her songs began to shift. They gained depth, introspection, and a new emotional rawness. Pain had a way of sharpening her artistry rather than dulling it. But the world didn't know yet. Carly Simon was about to enter a period of reinvention that few artists in her era achieved. By the mid-1980s, Carly Simon had survived heartbreak, public scrutiny, and years of internal struggle. Many expected her career to fade, overshadowed by younger stars and changing trends. Instead, she did something extraordinary. She reinvented herself. The power of film music. In 1988, Carly released one of the most defining songs of her entire career, Let the River Run, written for the film Working Girl. It was bold. It was triumphant. It was unlike anything she had ever recorded. This was not the vulnerable Carly of the early 1970s. This was an anthem, a declaration of collective power, resilience, and hope. The industry noticed. The song earned her a Grammy Award, a Golden Globe, and an Academy Award. Few artists in history have won all three for the same song. It was a turning point, proof that Carly Simon was not merely a nostalgic icon of the 70s, but a powerful voice still capable of producing culturally defining work. Even with awards on her shelves and renewed success, Carly's internal struggles never fully disappeared. She fought chronic anxiety nearly her entire life. She endured paralyzing migraines. She continued to battle stage fright so severe it sometimes stopped her from performing publicly. And she still carried the remnants of her childhood stutter, resurfacing in moments of emotional stress. These were not weaknesses. They were the backdrop of her courage. Every performance, every album, every public appearance demanded a level of bravery most people never understood. And yet, she kept going. After her divorce from James Taylor, Carly entered relationships that were meaningful but never again reached the intensity or cultural magnitude of her first marriage. She remarried years later to writer Jim Hart, but that relationship also ended in divorce. Love, for Carly, had always been a double-edged sword, an inspiration and a devastation. Her deepest romances seemed to leave scars, but they also gave her music its emotional power. By the late 1990s, Carly Simon had achieved what few artists could. She survived fame. She survived heartbreak. She survived her own fears. She survived the changing tides of the industry. But survival had come with a price. The world adored her songs, but it rarely saw the quieter truth, that Carly Simon often lived caught between past and present, between fear and courage, between heartbreak and healing. Her voice had matured, but so had the weight of her memories. As the new century approached, Carly found herself looking inward more than ever. Her career continued, her artistry evolved, but her world was beginning to shrink. Where her story goes from here becomes even more intimate, and ultimately, far more heartbreaking. In the quiet corners of her life, Carly Simon has carried more than melodies. She has carried wounds, invisible yet deep, shaped by loss, illness, and the complicated legacy of her family. This chapter digs into those shadows, into the health battles she has endured and the heartbreak that has followed her into her later years. The turning point came in the late 1990s. Carly discovered a lump in her breast, something she admits, in hindsight, she should have pushed doctors to remove sooner. The fear settled in slowly, like a cold whisper. When the diagnosis came, cancer was confirmed. She underwent a double mastectomy, reconstructive surgery, and chemotherapy. She later described the process as a fight, one she could not run away from, because she knew she had children, a career, and a life that needed her. After surgery, while recuperating, Carly confronted her own mortality. She said that during recovery, she felt both fragile and defiant. The physical pain was one thing, but the emotional weight of being a survivor, of carrying a body changed by cancer, was something she turned into art. In her work, she wrote Scar, a song that speaks to the wounds that remain after trauma, the visible and invisible reminders that life is not simply about survival, but about how you choose to live with your scars. She once said in an interview that the scar is a metaphor for the big wounds we suffer in a lifetime, and that a person who truly loves you sees those scars, not as weakness, but as proof of your strength. Carly's body healed, but the memories stayed with her. She admitted that cancer made her reevaluate parts of her life, pruning relationships that no longer served her, and clarifying what and who really mattered. And then came grief of a different sort. In October 2022, tragedy struck in a way Carly could hardly have imagined. Her two older sisters, Joanna and Lucy, died just one day apart. The loss was seismic. Joanna, the opera singer turned correspondent, was gone. Then Lucy, the composer and fellow artist, followed. Their deaths, one to thyroid cancer, the other to metastatic breast cancer, left Carly the only remaining child of her parents. In her own words, she described the void as long and haunting. She called them co-keepers of each other's memories, and suddenly, she was alone in that bond. At 80 years old, that grief is not something she shakes off. She has said she feels the responsibility of carrying her sister's legacies and memories in her own life and art. Their passing crystallized for her a painful truth: survival is not just about living, but about remembering. Even as she mourns, she has found ways to cope. In public reflections, she's spoken about therapy, about confronting her grief head-on. She has used her music to process the loss, weaving tribute into her writing, capturing both the agony and the awe of what she and her siblings shared. Her scars, both physical and emotional, have become part of her art, part of her identity, in a way that feels both heartbreaking and deeply courageous. The storm of fame, heartbreak, and illness may have battered her, but Carly Simon has built a sanctuary in the aftermath. Not one made of glittering lights, but of quiet resilience, reflection, and an unquiet soul that still creates. In her later years, she has not retreated completely from the world, but her life has undeniably changed. The stage is less constant, the tours are fewer. Instead, she has turned inward, toward memoir, writing, and small moments of intimacy that once felt impossible. Her memoirs, written with unflinching honesty, have become a space where she unpacks her past: the fame, the emotional battles, the relationship with her parents, and the devastating loss of her sisters. Through her words, she confronts all she has carried, and all she has survived. The act of writing has become therapeutic, a way to reconcile the woman she was with the woman she is now. She also leans on music in a different way. Not just as performance, but as memory, as healing. She revisits old songs, reinterprets them, and allows her voice to reflect not only what she once sung about longing and heartbreak, but also strength and acceptance. Her music is quieter now, more reflective, but no less powerful, because it speaks from a place only someone who's lived 1,000 chapters can reach. Carly has spoken publicly of her anxiety, her lifelong fear of being truly seen, and how she continues to wrestle with it. Yet she also carries gratitude, for survival, for her memories, for the legacy she and her sisters shared. In interviews, she has admitted that while losing her siblings was deeply painful, she is determined to carry forward their stories, their music, their spirit. In this chapter of her life, there is a stillness, not a giving up, but a reimagining. The spotlight that once shone so brightly now shifts gently, casting longer shadows but offering room for reflection. It is in this space that Carly Simon lives now, shaped by loss, defined by resilience, and continuing to create in ways that both honor her past and embrace her survival. Before the storms of age, grief, and illness cast their shadows over Carly Simon's quiet present-day existence, there was a legacy so vast, so culturally rooted, that it continues to echo through generations. Even now, even as her world has grown smaller, quieter and more fragile, that legacy stands tall, unshaken, luminous. Carly's career began in an era dominated by male songwriters and towering rock icons, yet she carved out a place that only she could fill, a place defined by vulnerability, poetic candor, and a daring ability to expose the human heart with unsettling honesty. She offered something different, something intimate and quietly devastating. Her music wasn't just meant to be heard, it was meant to be felt. You're So Vain, the worldwide phenomenon, became more than a hit. It became a cultural riddle, a generational anthem, a song that embedded itself into conversations, tabloids, and even academic studies of pop culture. But Carly's influence extends far beyond one mystery-laced track. Songs like Anticipation, Nobody Does It Better, Coming Around Again, Haven't Got Time for the Pain, and Mockingbird shaped the emotional landscape of the 1970s and 1980s. They became soundtracks to heartbreaks, marriages, illnesses, and recoveries. The kind of songs that listeners would cling to in the dark when they didn't know where else to turn. Younger artists have consistently pointed back to Carly as a blueprint for honest songwriting. Taylor Swift, Adele, Sarah Bareilles, Norah Jones, and countless others have referenced the importance of female songwriters who dare to expose raw emotional truth long before it was mainstream, long before confessional pop became a genre. Carly walked so they could run. Her lyrical style, which merged storytelling with emotional realism, became a template. Her bravery in writing about mental health, trauma, love, and insecurity at a time when the industry demanded perfection allowed future generations to do the same. Her openness about anxiety, stage fright, and personal imperfections humanized celebrity long before vulnerability became fashionable. She was also celebrated for her songwriting craftsmanship, earning her induction into both the Songwriters Hall of Fame and eventually, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. These recognitions did not merely reward her commercial success, they honored her ability to create art that transcended time. But Carly's influence doesn't end with music. Her work quietly entered spaces far beyond the stage, particularly mental health and music therapy. Her songs have been studied in clinical contexts for their emotional accessibility, their ability to articulate feelings that patients often struggle to express themselves. Therapists have long noted that her music, especially her softer, more introspective tracks, can unlock emotional expression in those battling depression or anxiety. Her books and memoirs, too, have become part of her legacy. She wrote with a surgeon's precision, but a poet's heart. Her reflections on childhood trauma, fame, fear, motherhood, and heartbreak have served as guides for readers seeking healing or simply searching for someone who understood. Yet for all her accolades, all her influence, all the artists who cite her as a foundational voice, Carly's legacy feels oddly bittersweet today. Because much of this recognition grows louder as she herself grows quieter, as though the world has finally begun to understand her genius just as she has stepped away from it. Her legacy is massive. Her world now is heartbreakingly small. And that contrast, between what she gave to millions and what remains in her life now, is one of the most haunting truths in this entire story. When people imagine legends, they picture grand homes echoing with laughter, walls covered in gold records, long dinners with friends, and entourages that never leave their side. But for Carly Simon, this once sky-reaching voice of American music, the truth of her life now is far more somber, quieter, and tinged with a loneliness that even fame cannot shield against. Today, Carly lives mostly in seclusion, tucked away in her home on Martha's Vineyard, a place filled with memories, ghosts, and echoes of the life she once lived. The coastline outside her windows is serene, but to her it carries everything she has lost. She rarely appears in public anymore. Even interviews, once sporadic but warmly welcomed, have grown infrequent. She has become, in many ways, a voice fading into the background, not because her legacy has dimmed, but because life itself has demanded a certain retreat. The grief that followed the deaths of her two sisters in 2022 changed her deeply. Friends close to her describe it as a shift, not just emotional but spiritual. She became the last surviving Simon sibling, a role she never imagined she'd hold so soon or so painfully. She often refers to Joanna and Lucy as the keepers of her childhood memories, which means that with their passing, enormous chapters of her early life have gone silent. That kind of loneliness, the kind that comes from outliving the people who knew you before fame, is a weight almost impossible to put into words. And yet, Carly feels that weight every day. Much of her sadness comes from the isolation that grief creates. Her circle has grown smaller not out of choice, but necessity. Loss, illness, aging, they have pulled her inward. Life now moves slowly for her, almost painfully so. Her days are mostly spent writing, reading, reflecting, and trying to maintain emotional balance. She still has moments of creativity, flashes of the brilliant woman she has always been, but they come in gentler waves now. Music isn't something she performs anymore, It's something she revisits in private, often alone, sometimes with tears. She has spoken candidly about her struggles with anxiety and stage fright, challenges that never fully disappeared, even in her later years. That fear of being seen, truly seen, has only deepened with time. And with the world changing rapidly around her, that fear now blends with a sense of disconnect that many aging artists feel as the industry evolves without them. When fans imagine Carly Simon, they picture elegance, warmth, intelligence, and the unforgettable voice that carried so many through their hardest nights. But what they don't see is the woman who now wakes up in a home that is too quiet, who carries the memory of two sisters she loved more than anything, who battles anxiety even in solitude, and who feels the weight of being the last keeper of her family's story. There is no scandal here. No dramatic downfall. Just life, real life, and the heartbreak of time moving forward whether we're ready or not. Carly Simon lives now in a world far removed from the concerts, interviews, and red carpets that once defined her. The sadness in her life is not sensational, it is human. It is the slow erosion of a world she once knew, replaced with one she never quite expected. And that is what makes her story so devastating. Not because she failed, but because she survived so much. Because survival, at her age and after all she has endured, often comes with a quiet kind of sorrow the public never sees. If Carly Simon's journey, her brilliance, her heartbreak, her resilience, and the quiet life she now leads, moved you in any way, then please take a moment to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on all notifications. Your support helps us continue uncovering the untold stories of the legends we grew up with. The ones whose voices shaped our lives, whose music carried us through our darkest nights, and whose truths are often far more emotional and heartbreaking than the world ever knew.